Hello and welcome to Wild Soul Gatherings. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie and I'll be your host for Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. I'm very grateful for all you wild souls out there who've decided to join us today. I'm really excited for our listeners to be able to meet our guests who will be joining us, and they will each be sharing their experiences, their unique gifts and insights, and we will be discussing the many different aspects of spirituality. A few of the topics will be energy healing modalities, Reiki, quantum physics, mediumship, and many more. In addition to our many guests who will be joining us on Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious, we will also be hosting a weekly show on astrology. Petys, our astrology coach, will co-host a weekly show that really takes astrology to a new level. To learn more about us, go to our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We would love to hear from you. You can contact us via email or through our website. Our email is wildsoulsgathering@gmail.com. In the tradition of Happy Hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, and maybe an aha moment that will positively influence your life. Because you come in my headphones. Perfect.
Oh, good.
Hey, so it's time for another podcast here. I have Penny, the astrology coach, for another session in astrology. So, welcome to Wild Souls Gathering. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So, today's topic, something a little different that I've never thought of doing astrology with before, but I recently overheard someone talking about it. And so I'm used to relationships. People all want to know about the love of their life, and, they want you to tell them how it's all going to turn out without living the life, right? So what I found fascinating was when you think about relationships and the ability to use astrology to help guide you, and really when you think of the coaching, part of it is with your family, right? So who you spend a significant amount of your life with your family, or if your family was absent and abandoned, honestly, if you knew their astrology, that could explain a lot of things and answer questions that you don't have. So we were joking about going to a baby shower and giving the mother a gift certificate for an astrological reading for their child when they're born.
Yes.
Because you couldn't do it until they're born, or you couldn't do it ahead, right?
No.
So,
well, if it's going to be a C-section, but again...
Well, even then, we both work in healthcare. You don't know the exact time and minute of that.
No,
I'm just saying.
Because literally it's the moment of the first breath.
Yeah. Okay, so explain that a little bit.
Sure.
And how that would work and the benefits.
Well, for those who have been listening to this podcast and hear me talk about astrology, you can glean so much important information from your birth chart. Like, you don't have to go about living your life wondering, I don't know why I act like this. I don't know why I always fall for the same men. Why am I so emotional? Why do I cry so easily? Born on a full moon.
I think that was directed at me. So we have full moon and this Cancer rising. And I'm like, I don't understand why I get so emotional. I just wanted to have a conversation. And, I resigned my day job recently and I was all fine and good with it. And then when I talked about it being like the end of that part of my career, I got all teary-eyed and I'm like, oh my God, I was so upset with myself.
Well, that's Cancer rising. It's not upset. It's just Cancer rising. The moon is the ruler of Cancer. Cancer is emotions. It's the womb. It's the mom. It's the family. It's, oh, come here. I'll give you a big old hug. Come here, honey. So when you're Cancer rising, you're emotional. You move with the tides. The moon rules the tides. For those of you who don't know, the tides go in and out, high tide, low tide, because of the moon. So when you have Cancer prominent in your chart, Cancer rising, a sun sign Cancer, if your moon is Cancer or any other planet, which that's a whole nother topic, you're going to be emotional. And then it depends on how those other planets in your chart interact with your Cancer planets or points. Like the rising sign is a point, it's not a planet. But how they interact, is it easy or is it more dynamic? Dynamic meaning could be challenging.
Yeah.
So that's why you're emotional at times. You're Cancer rising. It's a water sign. Water just goes with the flow. It just flows everywhere. Nothing contains it. It just flows. It's like your emotions. They come and they go. Those are water signs. They're emotional.
Well, and I remember the very first time you were looking at my stuff, you were looking, because you always, me and my paranoid tendencies, you're like, oh, you are a full moon, baby. And I'm like, oh, what is that? That didn't sound very positive.
No, I don't mean it like that.
No, I know. We talked about it, but it was interesting in that you said it told you a lot. One of the things that fascinated me was you were able to tell me a lot about my stuff and my relationships with my parents and different things just from the chart. And I was like, how the hell does she even know that?
I know
so the other thing I'm going to say, you do. you literally do. With this emotional Cancer rising and the full moon baby, which clearly seems to influence a lot of things, is I always get judged for being a Leo. And I'm like, I don't feel like I fit that Leo mold, but okay. In some ways I do, some ways I don't. But anyways, we're getting off topic.
But because she brought it up, Leo, Sandra is a Leo sun sign. Leo is king of the jungle. They like to be seen and heard. They're very prideful. Look at me, look at me. A lot of Leos are in the entertainment industry. They like to be well known. They like people to rub their back and say, "Oh, you did great." They like accolades. So when I first found out Sandra was a Leo, I honestly, for being an astrologer, I thought, really? When's your birthday? I remember when you told me, I was like, that's a Leo. You're like, mm-hmm. I was like, I got to look at her chart. I was like, okay, when were you born? And when I looked, I was like, she's Cancer rising. So this is how your chart works. They all play together and they affect every point and planet in your chart interacts with one another. Yeah. And one may overpower or lessen other aspects of your chart. So in Sandra's case, the Cancer rising and her full moon in certain signs don't make her, I wouldn't say make, they don't let her or allow her Leo sun sign to shine as strongly as some other Leos. But deep down inside, she's a Leo. But she's the strong, brave, quiet Leo type. Like, don't walk on my shit. But anyway, back to babies. So how this happens or how it works, just for yourself as an adult, I wish I knew why I'm so That's how we got off topic.
Yeah.
I wish I knew why I was so emotional, yada, yada, yada. Well, if parents knew their child's birth chart and everything that I'm talking about, they could raise their children in a way that's beneficial for the child. If you have a child with an emotional moon sign, then you know not to be too strict. Don't be harsh. Don't be demanding, because they'll break down. They'll cry. They'll hide from you. They'll go to their bedroom and cry. If you have a fire sign child, moon, that's fiery and they climb the walls and they're running around, you could say the exact same thing to that child and they're like, whatever, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing. That's why every child is unique and individual, and why usually families have children with different birth charts. And I'm sure everyone can vouch for this, and I'm sure as a parent, either you have said or you've heard others say, I don't know, my kids are so different. I don't understand why. Well, the reason is it's their birth chart. And you can see in their birth chart. So when a child is born and you have the exact time, it can't be the day. I mean, it has benefits, but you really can't see everything.
I know you keep challenging me on my birth time, but okay.
Oh, I know. If someone says, I was born at exactly 7 a.m., no, you weren't.
Yeah.
Because who really is born at exactly at the top of the hour? That's just what the hospital did way back whenever, and like, oh, yeah, I think it was, 7. It's a couple minutes after, it's 7 a.m. But
time for me to go home. My shift's over.
Yeah. But anyway, if you know, it's kind of like giving a cheat sheet for your child. Like, oh, I know how to treat them. I know how to love them. I know how to hug them. I know what foods they like. Not necessarily what foods, but I'm thinking like Taurus. Taurus babies, Taurus people in general love food. They love comfort foods. They love to be held. It's the earth. They're strong, they're bonded, they're stable, they're stubborn, very stubborn, very stubborn. But basically, if you have the birth chart of your child, I could tell you, let's say, Sandra, you come to me and you have a new baby, and I look at your child's birth chart, I could give you advice on, I wouldn't tell you how to raise your child. I would tell you the energies or the characteristics your child most likely will have just based on the energies in the chart, which I can see like, oh, they're going to be active in this. Oh, their Mars is in Aries. Oh my gosh, Mars is the energy planet. It rules Aries, the warrior. It's the warrior god, Mars. So Mars is that planet. It rules Aries. If Mars is in Aries at the time someone was born, they're fiery. They're action oriented. They're not going to sit still. If you tell that child to sit at a desk and not move, they won't be able to do it. They're going to be fidgety. They're going to want to get up. They're going to raise their hand. They're going to go potty.
So this would be great for teachers. Like they should include this all
my
in a
goodness.
class. Yeah.
Yes. I think I alluded to this once in a prior podcast, but I've looked at charts of my colleagues and coworkers.
Oh, yeah, you did share that.
Because I get an inside scoop on how they are and how they may interact with me, because I know what my energies are. I know I have a Leo moon. It's a fixed sign. So the 12 signs of the zodiac are divided into elements and modalities. Like modalities, fixed, cardinal, and mutable. And there's 4 in each of those. Like it forms a grand cross. The fixed signs, Taurus, the opposite of it is Scorpio, which is the axis. The axis. I don't know if it sounded like how to access, but it's axis, like AXIS. And then it's Aquarius, Leo. Those form a grand cross. Those are the 4 fixed signs. They're stubborn. They're very, very stubborn. They have their own ideas. You're not going to make me move. You're not going to change my mind. This is what I decided to do, and I'm going to do it. Well, guess what, folks? Families usually they come in groups of fixed signs. If your family isn't a fixed group sign, then it may be a cardinal sign, which is Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Those are the initiators, the get up, the go. I'm going to start, I'm going to move ahead. It's not like fixed. Fixed are the worker bees. The cardinal signs start everything. And the fixed signs are the ones who take over and work and get it done, but I'm not changing my mind. But typically in families, you get groups of these. You get cardinal signs, you get fixed signs, and then there's the mutable signs of Gemini, Sagittarius, that's the opposite, exactly across the zodiac, and Pisces and Virgo. And again, it's a grand cross, if you held your hands up. And those are mutable and they're changeable. They go with the flow. They take suggestions. In fact, they want suggestions. If I was all mutable, not every planet would be all mutable in anyone's chart. But if I had a lot of mutable energy, or my sun and moon and rising, and you say, hey, try this, it will help you, or buy this car, I'd be like, oh, really? It works for you? It's going to work for me. Okay, good. I'll do it. I'll sell. They're very influenced by others' opinions. I see it all the time. And again, in families and in children, the themes usually follow. And why? Because you're here on Earth to work out issues with family. Yeah. And I am digressing. I don't know if I'm digressing or not because I have so much in my mind. But sometimes you can tell the black sheep of the family because their energies are so different from the other energies. Say there's a husband, wife, and 2 children. Oh, I didn't even talk about fire, earth, air, water. All the planets and the signs, I always think they're all the same to me. The signs, you're either fire, air, earth, water. Fire and air get along. I mean, they all get along, but they're most compatible. And earth and water. Okay? So let's say you have 3 of your family members that are all cardinal, or a lot of their signs are cardinal. Let's say their sun and moon and rising sign are cardinal signs. And let's say they're fiery. They have a lot of fire. They're get up and go. Fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And then that fourth family member is all mutable. Mutable takes suggestions. They're not the get up and go. They're not the fixer uppers, the workers. They're suggestible. And let's say they're water signs.
So they never fit in.
Yeah, and they become the black sheep. So I could look at that. I can look at the compatibility in families, and that's just the surface. That's just the surface. I can compare planet to planet, chart to chart, aspect to aspect. I can see a lot, and you can also see which child, when they say you inherited that from your father. Well, I can see in the chart what you inherited, quote, inherited from a parent or a grandparent. I can look at grandparents' charts.
So I find that fascinating. So we talk about heredity and genetics and color of eyes and, predisposition to disease and those kinds of things. But there's actually an astrological hereditary energetically that is just as powerful and important as those cellular and genetic things, correct?
Correct, absolutely. And you can see what you came here to work on with those individual family members. Because...
So one of the things that I found really cool about it was it really... It takes the... Especially as a parent, like, am I doing something wrong? It's not my fault. It really eliminates any kind of judgment or anything.
Correct.
It's sort of just like... buying an old used car with a stick versus a new car with an automatic. This is how it's built. This is how it works. These are the quirks of the vehicle. This is how you drive each one. You take care of it and you get it. So that is a really weird example. But to me, if you understand the characteristics, then nothing's personal. Like, there's nothing personal about any of it with the relationships. And it helps me create a plan of how to best interact with a person, which is probably why you did it for work. But with family, how you can best support them, and help everyone be their best, and how you can have a conversation with someone
and help
to
them
best support you also.
Yes, and how to help them grow confidently and be positive.
Yeah, so it's a whole parenting thing, huh?
It is, and that's why every child needs to be parented in their own unique ways. Honestly, it is amazing because, like I was saying earlier in the conversation, if you have a fiery child, let's say let's reverse that. Let's say your firstborn is a watery child. A water and earth child. Lots of Taurus, lots of Cancer. Maybe they're Cancer rising or Cancer sun, or they have Scorpio in their chart, which is water. Or Pisces, very emotional. Watery, they like to be held. They like to be loved. They don't like to be yelled at. They love kisses and hugs and foods. They don't like to sleep in their own bassinet or crib. They love to sleep with you. And you're like, oh, this child is so sweet and kind. And they coo a lot and they smile and laugh, but they don't like to be alone. And they're easy for, could be based on several aspects in the chart. And then your second child is full of fire, all fire, with some air thrown in there because they're chat. If you're not watching this, I'm moving my fingers like I'm talking like a, maniac, like a squirrel. And you think you have a child from hell because they don't sit still. They're running all over the house. They're screaming, yelling like banshees, trying to climb. And you're thinking, oh my God, what do? I don't know what. Well, you don't have to do anything. You just have to know that this is a fiery child. This is how this child is going to be. And you just have to, be unique and skilled with your parenting. You have to treat that child differently. Like I said earlier, that child's probably not going to sit still for you. They're going to be jumping around, jumping off the couch. They're probably going to get more bumps and bruises and cuts. And
you'll be going to school a lot to talk to the teacher and the principal.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not to say one is good and one is bad, or why can't this one act like the other one? It can't.
They're built different.
They're built different, just like a Ford is different from a Chevy.
Yep.
And engines are different. Yeah. So if a parent has this knowledge from the get-go, then it just helps them raise more confident and secure and happy children, in my belief. I truly believe that. And then I can also see how siblings will interact with each other, like who's going to take over, why this one acts like this, and I can help the parents and give them hints on like, okay, this may happen between your two children, so you may have to do this, or you might possibly have to work this way or go down this route, or, utilize some special techniques during, I don't know, bedtime or bath time or eating. And as the child ages and grows older, it becomes especially helpful during the teenage years when their friends get into the mix. Yep. And who's the introvert, who's the extrovert, who needs to be with friends. You can see all this by their moon sign, where their moon is placed in their chart, and how it interacts with the other planets and points in the charts, the aspects. And I do talk about this I have written a guide, a super simple astrology guide, and I have the basics of all of this in the guide. It's not advanced. It's great. I love it. It took me a long time to figure out. But anyway, that's...
Well, I know that's soon to be published. When it's published, we'll let everyone know, but how would they be able to access that?
Well, they can contact me through wildsoulasstrology@outlook.com, or when I publish it, it will be on Amazon, and it will be on your website, where you can also find me, and your website is...
Wild Souls, SOULS, gathering.com.
Yeah. And then I'll have a page.
Our email is the same at Gmail. And then you just hit that astrology tab there, and it'll take you right to Penny.
Right. But like what I know in my head, my knowledge is... There's so much in there that I have. I put some of it in this book. But if someone were to come to me for a reading, a child reading, or a compatibility reading, I could go over all of this. It's not just, oh, you're a sun sign Taurus and you're a sun sign Cancer. Oh, you get along. That's not it at all. Because it may look on the surface that you get along, because maybe it's fire and or fire and air, because they do get along. But all your other planets don't jive. They're not working together well. I could see that. And the other thing, this is definitely advanced, but I can see in anyone's chart the relationship they have with their parents.
Yeah, I was very surprised the things that you told me about my relationship with my mother.
Or how your parents' relationship was at the time of your birth, how I see a lot. I can see siblings. But basically, parents are signified by certain points and planets in the chart, and how the geometrical aspect or angles between those planets and points are. I can see a lot, especially full moon babies. That's another topic I won't talk about right now, but it's very intriguing, to say the least.
Yep, no, to say the least. And the other thing that was fascinating, and I know we both experience it in our families, and you said it's like very common, or I guess maybe always, I never use always, is that people will, with their children or their parents, will have opposite signs.
Well, not always, but again, like you can see in families' charts where they have inherited certain characteristics, or... How do I say this? For instance, I will give mine as an example. There's something, the children usually have something from their mother's chart, and it's very prominent. Like, for instance, my mom is a Leo rising. I have a Leo moon. And that tends to fall in line with children and their mom. It may not be the rising, but it's something like that. It's transferred onto the child. I'm Virgo rising. My son has a Virgo moon. Can I say yours?
Yeah.
Sandra is Cancer rising, and she has a child who's a Cancer sun. So it's not a moon, but it's a Cancer sun. So there are patterns like that you see in families. And you'll see, not only does it follow like that, but it follows the grandparents. And I can see a child, if they take after the grandparents' side on the father's side or the mother's side. I can see that. If I have charts of all the grandparents, if I have the parents' charts and the grandparents' charts, I can see like, oh, I know they're going to be acting like so-and-so, or they got this characteristics from so-and-so. And I won't say that blindly, but if a parent wants to know, or if it's just for me or my friends and they're asking, I'm like, okay, give me the deal. Let me see.
Yeah.
I can look at that. But it's very telling, very intriguing. I love it. And that's why after a baby is born, if a parent has their chart, they can start working with the energies of their baby right away. And it just makes their path easier, both for the parent and the child.
Yeah, I was going to say that works both ways. So would you consider, I was just thinking about this, would you consider astrology a science or a math? Because it's legitimate. It feels like a science, but there's a lot of math, it's very geometrical and physics related also.
Oh my gosh.
Or has that discussion ever taken place?
Oh, many, 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 many times. There's many arguments. There's YouTube videos. There's books about it. There's astronomers. There's scientists. There's astrologers. There's PhDs. They have this discussion. Personally, I don't know. All I know is it works. It is a science. I do believe it's a science. Yeah. And there is math involved.
There's a lot of math involved with it.
But luckily for us nowadays, the computers do it all. Back in the day, like even when I started in 1993 studying astrology, the computers just started calculating charts for free on the internet. But prior to that, you had to pay to have one chart calculated or go to an astrologer. Now, with the advent of the internet and all of these sites, you can have a site calculate your chart for free. And then, of course, if you don't know astrology, you need to go to an astrologer who can help you with whatever you need. Mm-hmm. But I know it works. I've been studying it, practicing it, living it, observing the results or how the energies affect everyone I know for 29 years. I had to calculate. It'll be 30 years next year, and 23.
Time goes fast.
But that's what I do. If I know someone's chart, basically my close friends and family, and I know because I do see and think in astrology. I know it's weird, but it is a language. Mm-hmm. So I do, when someone walks in a door, I meet someone, I don't even force myself to think this. I'm like, oh, they have a Taurus moon. They're Taurus sun sign. Oh, they're fiery. Yeah, I bet they have Aries in their chart. Mm-hmm. No, I'm wrong. They must be Sagittarius. And I could tell by their look, too. You might think it's weird, but it works. Their rising sign and their sun sign, it affects planets in the first house affects how someone looks. So I'm constantly thinking that. So those are for strangers, but for people I know, and I know their charts, and then there's a big event that just happened, I'll like, that's because, and then I'll look at their chart and I'm like, oh yeah, Uranus just went over their fourth house cusp. And that's just immediate change to the family or the home, or, there's multiple variations of that. But I play around with it in my head, and it just, again and again and again, over and over and over, it's accurate. It's so defining and telling. I love it.
I know you do. I mean, it's truly, truly your passion. What I have learned to embrace with it is it really gives me meaningful and actionable information. So it gives me information that I can use to better understand how things may be influenced to make the best decision possible in a situation. Mm-hmm. And more recently, I've started using it with the relationships and really sort of moving myself away from things and taking that, personalizing things and removing that and accepting it for, the uniqueness of people, and really being more accepting versus judging, and really just giving me an idea of how to better approach and have conversations, or even when you're planning an event or going out to an activity or something, what activity would be better than the other.
Correct.
And it's nice with adults, but the gift is when you have younger children in your life, it's a whole different way that you can use it to make life difference. Like, I just wish I would have known this when my kids were in elementary school and I kept getting called to the principal's office. Yeah. I mean, it really would have made a big difference. I knew that was just how they each were built, which is different. Mm-hmm. And I could tell you, depending how that school teacher, if she expected the boy to sit at the desk and read a book, that I was going to be up at school a lot because he needed to be up and about and, out in the schoolyard working through the plants and experimenting things. And honestly, the same thing with the girl, depending on that personality type of the teacher, I would know if she was going to come home from school crying every day. But I didn't realize what influenced it all, and honestly, I would have managed things very, very differently than I did, because I literally just didn't know any better. I knew they were very different, and I knew in these situations this is how they would react, but I always felt like I had no control or no ability to influence it. So I'm excited to have this podcast and you to be able to just create a sense of awareness of how people can make life better for themselves and the people they love and care about, and honestly influence the world better.
Well, I do want to add something you said, which is, super, super, super important that I've thought for years, but I never get to say it out loud. I don't know. But when you said the teacher told the child to sit down, or you'd have to, this is amazing. They've actually performed studies on this. The astrology chart of the teacher determines who her favorite students are in the class and who she gravitates to and who she thinks are her troublemaker students. Because you know what?
So judgments are made.
Although a teacher will not say that.
Oh, of course
not. But let's say you have a teacher who is a fixed sign, earth sign, and has water in the chart, that they're calm, quiet, they don't like change, they're strong, stable, they do what they're told, they sit and they work at something. And then she has students in her class that are full of fire and air. Fire, there's active, they can't sit still. Air, they like to talk a lot. And let's say it's cardinal energy. They want to get up and go. They're not fixed where you give them an assignment and they'll sit still. The teacher doesn't even know he or she does this. Well, in her mind, his or her mind think, oh, that's a troublemaker. Doesn't listen, doesn't sit still, can't follow instructions. Well, it has nothing to do with that. That's just the makeup of the student. So it actually would benefit parents of their children to know the birth chart of each and every teacher that their child had. So it works that way, and it would benefit a teacher to know the birth charts of their students, to know, oh, that's why. Okay, I need to treat Johnny a little differently. And it's not that you're playing favorites, you're just utilizing the energies to benefit everyone the best you can.
You're embracing basically what is their God-given or what they're born with gifts.
Right.
To help them be the best that they can be.
And the other thing that I was going to say when you were talking about the teachers and the children, it's more than just a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. A girl will sit down and listen to instructions, and the boys are... No, it's not that. Yes, there is testosterone for boys and estrogen for girls. And yes, some boys are just rowdy regardless of their chart. But really, it's their birth chart and the energies in the chart. Because there's boys who follow instructions and sit down and write and read and do their homework, and they're introverted and they don't talk. Guaranteed, I could look at their chart. I know why.
Yep.
And then there's girls who are crazy. Won't sit still, running into walls, craziness, all kinds of stuff. Why? They're a girl. Aren't they supposed to be quiet and demure and sit and follow instructions? No, it's their birth chart. And that's the beauty in it. Sorry, I could go on.
Hey,
Sandra knows.
No
I could talk for days and days and weeks of the benefits of astrology and how it helps anyone and everyone, from working with compatibility charts. Like I will have available on the website, family readings, family dynamics, or compatibility between family members. There are compatibility readings for, love compatibility between husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. But the compatibility, we use the word compatibility, but it's just how the energies interact with other people that you are around frequently. It could be teacher and student, siblings, father-daughter, father-son. What else did I say?
Any relationship.
Any relationship. But you don't want to, go to an astrologer for a reading on the guy who sells you groceries at the grocery store. I mean, but it's...
Unless you want a relationship with him.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother thing. I can do that too. If you know someone's chart or their birth time and you come to me, I'd be like, yeah, that's a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't tell you exactly, but you know what I mean.
But so I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for being you and how the universe has created you. You're very out of the box, and you really look at how you can use astrology as a tool to enrich people's lives, enrich families, enrich the world.
Thank you.
So I think that this is going to be, I'm really very curious the response from the audience. So we're very eager for you to, reach out to us, send us emails, reach out to the website.
Yes.
Ask questions. Let us know what your thoughts are on what you just listened to and how that played into your life. And, any questions or thoughts you may have on different opportunities with it. And we'll be very eager to discuss this in different podcasts as we continue to talk.
We briefly discussed, I think it's a great idea that once we start receiving questions from listeners, we will choose one or two or maybe three, depending on how much time is left in a podcast, to answer questions. Yeah. Because honestly, it's a great learning tool. Like, you can hear me talk and you'll be like, oh, she talks too much, or I'm not understanding. But for some reason, when you hear it in a question format from someone else, and I answer it like, quote, a teacher or someone with the knowledge, it just tends to get stuck in your brain more. And I always found
it's more relatable.
Yeah, I found
something that's personally relatable.
Yeah, it's not just something I'm spewing out to you. Someone else, you're hearing someone else ask a question, and when I answer it, hopefully you'll be like, oh, yeah, now I get it. That makes sense. So hopefully soon we'll be answering questions on the podcast.
Yeah, a lot more to come.
Them.
And again, Penny's book, Super Simple Astrology. Guide.
Super Simple Astrology
Guide. Get this out.
Well, we should have it to hold up.
I'm going to write it on a card so I can just look at it next
cover,
time.
We should show it. But Super Simple Astrology Guide will be out soon, and we'll let you know. We're publishing it based on the stars and the planets.
Yeah, we're really excited, and we're really open to your thoughts, the direction you would like us to go, other topics you would like us to embrace. They can also reach out to you at wildsouleastrology@outlook.com, or they can come to the website wildsoulsgathering.com and hit the astrology page if they want to look at your stuff. We have actually a whole variety of different things on the website with the farm and the retreats and the other things that we're in the process of creating. And most of all, I really want to thank everyone for taking time and sharing your valuable time with us today. Hope you found value in this, and until next time, please go out and embrace that wild soul, regardless what sun sign, rising sign, or moon.
That's moon sign.
Moon sign you may be.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Have a great day. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us for this episode of Wild Souls Gatherings Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. To find out more about our guests, how to contact them, or detail on this episode, please see our show notes. You can also visit us at our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We would love to hear from our visitors what you thought of this show, what you would like to see and hear in the future, questions you may have. You can contact us at wildsoulsgathering@gmail.com, or visit us on our Facebook page, Wild Souls Gathering Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love. Until we meet again, embrace your wild soul.